Video games are a pretty big part of my life. I've met lifelong friends and I've been given many opportunities in my life because of video games. So today's video is very special to me, as I'm talking about not just one of my favorite video games, but the video game that would send me down the path I walk today. A video game that is very special to me. Super Mario 64.
It's me, Mario! Hello!
For this review, I'll be covering not just gameplay and story, but every level it has as well. We will be talking about the games and their respective sections, segmented by 4 parts. The general overview, Floor 1, Floor 2, and Floor 3. I'll be playing the 3D All-Star versions of Mario 64, as it is the cleanest version visually. I also did not 100% the game for this review, as I just wanted to go through the game more casually. Super Mario 64 begins with Mario receiving a letter from Princess Peach inviting him over for cake. But when he gets to the castle, he finds that it is completely empty, with the exception of a few toads, a Lakitu cameraman, and a mysterious voice telling him to scram. Mario discovers that almost everyone has been trapped within the castle walls and paintings by Bowser, who used the Power Stars to do so. Mario sets off on an adventure to rescue everyone by jumping into the paintings and walls to free the Power Stars Bowser had locked away. After many scuffles with Bowser and obtaining 70 Power Stars, Mario then makes his way to the top of the castle for his final encounter with the King of Koopas. Mario then promptly defeats Bowser and everyone is freed and has cake at the end. The story of Mario 64 isn't going to exactly win any awards, but I would argue it works in this game's favor. This is the first 3D Mario adventure after all. I don't think throwing players into the deep end back then would have really worked out that well. I also want to point out that the worlds we visit in Super Mario 64 aren't real. They are all worlds that exist only in the paintings, and once the adventure is over, they just go back to being normal paintings. I think this is a brilliant way to have such a variety of different level types without having to create any sort of cohesive world design. While the levels do generally follow the same handful of themes, the levels themselves are all unique. But what good is level variety if Mario doesn't got the moves? Well, don't worry, Mario's got the moves. In fact, he has a lot of them. Mario can wall kick, wall jump, triple jump, dive jump, side jump, jump kick, punch punch, ground pound, swim, shell surf, fly, turn into metal, go invisible, long jump, crawl, breakdance, and most importantly, he can jump. This game has such an insane amount of abilities, most of which are accessible to you 100% of the time. The moveset is easy to use, but hard to master. And mastering the moveset is extremely satisfying. The way these levels are designed really reward the players for getting good with the moveset. Being able to skip almost entire missions or sections of level if you know where to jump and which sequence of moves to use. There's a lot of freedom in Mario 64, and that's impressive, considering that not only is this a 3D video game from 1996, but it's also Mario's first 3D entry. Speaking of 3D, this game visually I think still looks pretty pleasing to the eye. The chunky and very rough translation of these characters into 3D still has a charm to it. I know Mario can and will look better on the same system, but I very much adore the low poly charm this game has. Mario responds pretty accurately to your inputs. I rarely felt like I had no control over Mario, although there were times where it did feel like that. I also love that they contextualize the camera as its own separate character, rather than some nondescript concept. I'm sure this worked wonders easing players into what would have been a complex system at the time. Now, let's take a closer look at the levels you'll move around in. The beginning of the game takes place in the front courtyard in the main lobby of Peach's castle. I like that the game doesn't immediately throw you into the real main hub. You have to work your way into the castle. The front courtyard is a fantastic place to get used to the controls and practice all the different jumps you can do. I believe this is also the first time we get to see Peach's castle in a mainline Mario game. The lobby is iconic. It's the first thing my mind goes to when I think about Peach's castle. There are 8 levels in total on this floor, 5 main stages and 3 special stages. You start the game only being able to visit 1 level though, that being Bob-omb Battlefield. A stage as iconic as it is fun. Bob-omb Battlefield is a stellar opening level. This level actually has a story to it. The friendly Bob-ombs are at war with the normal Bob-ombs, using cannons and the like to battle each other. Again, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it is a nice little world building tool. I love that the Bob-ombs shoot bubbles of water at each other. They could have easily just made the cannons fire explosives, but it makes more sense that they would shoot water since it would put out their fuses. You don't really take sides in the conflict. I mean, sure, you take out King Bob-omb, but that's more because he has a power star and won't give it up. Speaking of power stars, this level has a lot of freedom with them. There are only 2 stars where you have to play their respective missions on the select screen, and 1 star you will need to come back later because you don't have access to a specific power-up yet. But other than that, you can just get the rest of them at any given point. Everything about this level just works, and the way it's designed really lends itself to a lot of fun shortcuts. This level introduces pretty much the 2 recurring enemy types, Goombas and Bob-ombs. You will see a lot of the Goombas and the Bob-ombs, which is fine, but I wish we had a little bit more of a bigger pool of recurring enemies. This level also established shell surfing, and the fact that Koopas, despite being a frequent frequent enemy in the 2D games, will be a rarer type of enemy come the 3D games. Which is disappointing because I've always been more partial to the Koopas than the Goombas, but I get why though. The main mechanic of Koopas are their shells, and how do you really translate that into a 3D sandbox without locking them behind specific situations? I do like how they tackled the shell problem in this game though. In Super Mario World, the Koopa shells gave Yoshi different abilities, and they work pretty much the same here. But now the ability depends on the environment rather than the shell itself. If you get the shell on land, Mario will surf on the shell, giving him greater speed and invincibility. This only goes away if you hit a wall or crouch. If you get the shell underwater, Mario will use the shell to propel himself, acting like a sea glide. I think my favorite star in Bob-omb Battlefield was the race with Koopa the Quick. I love how cocky he is. He's really not that much of a challenge though, and I find that hilarious. If you beat him in the race, he's not really a sore loser, but if you lose to him, he becomes a jerk and his dialogue is hilarious. Overall, Bob-omb Battlefield is a fantastic level. After you get at least 1 star, you can head upstairs and do the first secret stage. This stage is a giant slide. There are 2 stars to grab here. One for just going down the slide, and one for beating the slide within 20 seconds. The second star can be quite the challenge to get, especially for newcomers. Heck, I've been playing this game for nearly 17 years and I still struggle getting the star. Luckily, you can pull off some shenanigans and get the star easy peasy. A fun level, but I'm really glad this isn't a main stage. I don't think I would have liked it as much if I had to go down this darn slide 8 more times. The next level is Thwomp's Fortress, another great level. Unlike Bob-omb Battlefield, you can get every star your first run through. Also, unlike Bob-omb Battlefield, there really is no story to this level. Yeah, that's the thing. After Bob-omb Battlefield, they quickly dropped the whole giving each level its own backstory thing, so every level from here on out just sort of exists with no real story to it. I'm perfectly fine with that though, to be honest. Each world exists solely within the confines of a painting anyway, so you don't really need any sort of world building here. This level has a ton of shortcuts that you can use if you know your way around Mario's moveset. I like almost every star in this level, with only 1 star I truly dislike. The Owl Cage star is the worst star in the level, and was the bane of my existence as a kid. I truly used to despise this star, but after I learned that you can just skip the owl part entirely, my opinions on the star have softened quite a bit. Yeah, you can just cut out the owl entirely if you position yourself correctly and long jump off the tower. So while I still dislike the star, I'm not going to count it against the stage because it's only really going to be a struggle for newcomers. Also, the 100 coin star here is really easy to get. There's practically coins everywhere. It's great. Yet another solid level. The following level is Cool Cool Mountain. It's a snow level! You know what that means! Christmas! Okay, in all seriousness, this level is great. It's similar to Thwomp's Fortress. It's a pretty vertical level, but instead of scaling up, you scale down. So there are a lot of shortcuts on getting down, but not a lot on getting back up. Most of the stars here are pretty easy. The 100 coin star might give you some issue on your first time through, so I'll give you some friendly advice. Take the slide first. It'll give you a free 75 coins to work with. While this level is pretty fun and all, I gotta say that I don't like it nearly as much as I did the first 2 levels. I like the snow aesthetic and the music is iconic, but this level doesn't really speak to me the same way the last 2 did. This level also has the first star I would just flat out call bad. Snowman's Lost Head is the first star where you absolutely have to play by the game's rules, which makes it stand out even more. In Snowman's Lost Head, you have to lead a snowball down the slide into the snowman's body. Now you have to go down the slide, and you have to be in front of the snowman's head before the snowball finishes the slide. Otherwise, it'll just roll off the cliff. You also can't fall off the slide or let the snowball beat you, or else it would also just roll off the cliff. Also, make sure you have health here because you need to take force damage to get the star. There's no real workaround for this mission, so unlike the Owl Cage star in Thwomp's Fortress, I really can't look past this as just a sore spot for first timers. Overall, a great stage. I just don't like it as much as the first 2. If you've done most of the stars in these levels by now, you should by now have more than 12 stars. You need 8 stars to fight the Bowser fight, but I'm not talking about that just yet. Instead, I'm talking about the next castle's secret stage. At 12 stars, you unlock the secret stage that allows you to obtain the Wing Cap, the first of 3 power-ups. Making the return from Super Mario World, you need to activate these question switches to unlock the associated power-ups, filling in blocks that were previously unfilled in select stages. This level also has 1 star in it, a red coin star. Honestly, this is probably the hardest red coin star in the game, not because the level itself is difficult, but mainly because of the fact that you gain speed over time while flying, thus making it easier to miss the specific angles you need to approach the red coins at. A level I'm overall indifferent about. I don't ever really look forward to this level on repeat playthroughs though. Now, logically, you would presume we would talk about the next level on floor 1, and we are, just not the one you're thinking of. Within the painting room for Jolly Roger Bay, there is another entrance to another secret star. There is also only 1 star in this level, and it's a red coin star. This red coin star is extremely easy, but I really do enjoy this secret stage. Something about it creates a sense of mystery yet calm. I enjoy this one every time. Now we're actually moving on to Jolly Roger Bay, one of my personal favorites. I love the overall vibe of this place. It's relaxing, yet mysterious. Jolly Roger Bay is a water level, so obviously you'll be spending a majority of your time swimming. Honestly, I still think the original Mario Mario 64 still has the best swimming mechanics out of any Mario game. Every 3D Mario after this game does their own take on how Mario should swim, and I have never really preferred any of them. Hopefully, in Odyssey 2 or the next 3D Mario, we will see normal swimming return. I love that the music lacks a percussion track on the shore, but when you get in the water, the music fills out and becomes way more complex. This level also contains my biggest nightmare. This giant freaking eel. This eel used to terrify me as a kid. I realized that nowadays, this eel might just look like a bunch of low poly assets to the youngins nowadays, but as a kid, this eel haunted my nightmares. The trigger to get this eel out is super finicky all these years later, and I still don't know how to reliably get the eel to leave the ship. You can get most of the stars on your first time through. There's only one star in this level you'll need to come back later, as you won't have the power-up necessary to obtain it. This level is where shell gliding appears. It's a really underutilized mechanic. In fact, I think this is the only level where you can do this. Mario 64 has a lot of that. Really cool mechanics that go underutilized and rarely appear ever again, if at all. It's one of my very few complaints with this game. Overall, still a great level. Love the aesthetic, love the level. After collecting 8 power stars, as you can see, I may have collected a little more than that, you gain the ability to enter the boss store. Each floor has its own boss store, which acts as the final level for each area. These levels have a red coin star and a fight with Bowser at the end. The first boss level is Bowser in the Dark World, and everything about this level is iconic. Bowser's Road, which is the theme for this level, hits so hard. Just take a listen to this. It brilliantly sets the mood and gets you really amped to take on Bowser. In fact, this song was so good, they remade it in Galaxy 2, and listen to this one! Such a fantastic song. Bowser in the Dark World is a good level. Nothing amazing about it, but hey, it doesn't need to be amazing. After you go through the pipe at the end of the level, you face Bowser. These fights are pretty lame, admittedly. All you have to do is get behind Bowser and spin him around and then throw him into the explosive mines around the arena. It can be really tricky aiming him at the mines. In fact, I still struggle with this fight despite my experience with this game. Overall, though, solid level. I still have fun here despite its faults. And that was the first floor. A really good first batch of levels that fully showcased the possibilities of Mario in a sandbox environment. Tons of stars to collect, plenty of freedom, and an overall really comfortable time. This is a really great first impression. Here's hoping the next floor can carry the torch. The second floor takes place in the basement. You would think you would find dungeons down here, but alas, there are only more paintings. There are 7 stages in total, 6 main stages and 1 special stage. Unlike the first floor, there's only 1 door locked behind a star count, that being the boss store. You'll need 30 stars to open it. Also, don't forget to drain the moat to get the red coin star and invisible cap. The basement introduces what I like to call castle stars. Pretty self-explanatory, but castle stars are stars that you can get inside the castle without having to enter a stage. You get 2 stars from a rabbit called Mips, and 1 star from the toad in front of Hazy Maze Cave. Speaking of Hazy Maze Cave, that's the first level we're going to talk about. I've seen a lot of people say they hate this stage, but honestly, I don't see why. This level's fine. It's got plenty of freedom when it comes to stars. The 100 coin star can be pretty tough though. This level's pretty stingy with its coins. I always start with Hazy Maze Cave to get the metal cap early. Technically, Hazy Maze Cave has 2 red coin stars because of the room where you activate the metal cap switch. This level also has a star that you can't get without the metal cap, but since you get the metal cap in this level, I don't really hold it against the level. This level also introduces new enemy types. Swooper, which only appears in this level, I believe, and spiders, which also show up in another level. Hazy Maze Cave also introduces a new friendly NPC, one that will become a staple in a series. Dory! Overall, Hazy Maze Cave is a pretty decent level. Not as great as any of the ones on the first floor, but I still had a fun time here. Next up is Big Boo's Haunt. This is a pretty decent level. The level exists in a tiny cage, kind of like a ship in a bottle, and you have to shrink down to enter it. But before that, you find the level in the castle's back courtyard. The castle courtyard is swarming with ghosts now, and for some reason this really put me on edge as a kid. I really really don't understand how I was even scared of the Boos. I mean, look at them. They're adorable. Anyways, Big Boo's Haunt is a huge haunted mansion with many different rooms and levels. Gee, I wonder if they'd reuse this concept in a future Mario game. There aren't really a ton of shortcuts here. Also, there are a good number of missions you have to do in order. I recommend that you get the invisible cap before going into this level. Otherwise, you'll have to come back later. This level can get a little repetitive. 3 of the 6 missions are just kill ghosts but in a different section of the mansion. Big Boo's balcony is pretty dumb. The objective itself isn't too hard, but then they put the star on top of the roof and expect you to just sort of figure out how to get up there. The 100 coin star is easy if you have the invisible cap. Overall, fun level. I really like this one. It's a good time. The next level is Lethal Lava Land. This is the first fire level of only 2. Yeah, for some reason there are only 2 fire levels and they are both in the basement. I just wanted to point out how weird that is. This is another level that I see gets a lot of flack, but I can kind of see why this one does. I don't think any of the stars are particularly terrible or hard to get, but the level is one big hazard and the camera angles for this level are pretty bad. Mario 64 gets a lot of flack for its camera, but this is really the first time where I got frustrated with the camera. For the most part, the camera has been mostly inoffensive. It's not perfect, but for a 96 video game, it's really good. This level also gets really repetitive. A lot of doing the same thing in different sections. Kill this bully here, now do it again. I enjoy shell surfing over the lava. I also like that when you die in the volcano, if you select the volcano mission again, you respawn in the volcano. Nice quality of life thing. Overall, this level was just okay. Not great, but I did have some fun with this level. Up next on the chopping block is Shifting Sand Land. This level blows. I hate Shifting Sandland. The camera angles are all really bad. There are little to no coins to collect in this level, so the 100 coin star is a pain. I don't like any of the stars. This level is riddled with instant death quicksand. A common complaint I've heard about Mario 64 is that it has too many obstacles where you just instantly die as a punishment, but this level is like if you actually made a level based on how people described Mario 64's level design. Klepto is in this level. I didn't finish this level. This one sucks. On a complete 180 though, the next level is one I quite like. Dire Docks is a pretty decent level. It's another water level. One weird thing about it though is that you have to defeat Bowser before you can complete the rest of it. This level's stages are all pretty easy, plenty to do out of order. It comes close to having the vibes of Jolly Roger Bay, but I don't like it nearly as much. I don't know, I just wish there was more to this level. It's not a small level, but most of it is underwater and there aren't really any shorelines, so it makes it feel like this level doesn't have much to see. Overall, I do enjoy this level and like it quite a bit. After you collect 30 stars and complete the first star of Dire Docks, you unlock the next Bowser level. Bowser in the Fire Sea is the second fire level I foreshadowed earlier. It's a fine level. Like Bowser in the Dark World, there's a red coin star. This level isn't challenging, nor is it as memorable as the first Bowser level in my opinion. After you get to the end of the level, you fight Bowser again. This fight is almost exactly the same, except now Bowser can tilt the platform, charge at you, and teleport. Again, it's a fine level, but nowhere near as memorable as the first. And that was the second floor. Pretty decent overall. Most of the levels were fine, yet nothing special. I don't think any of them hit as hard as the levels did in the first floor, but I still had a great time with them. If you've done most of what these levels have to offer, then you should be finishing the area with at least 70 stars. More than enough actually to just go straight to the final boss if you wanted to. As tempting as it was, I decided I will do my due diligence and talk about the final floor. While the second floor didn't live up to the stellar first impression that was the first floor, it was still good in its own right. Will the final floor continue the trend of declining level quality? Will it bring us back to the glory of the first floor? There's only one way to find out. Here we are, the final floor. There are 7 levels in total on the final floor, 6 main stages and 1 special stage. There are a whopping 2 castle stars in this area. You get them from 2 toads. The game pretty much opens up to its fullest here. Not many walls standing in your way. Again, you can totally skip this floor in its entirety if you really wanted to. First level up is Tall Mountain. This level's okay. It would be a lot better if it weren't for the fact that you had to constantly scale the mountain over and over. 100 coins is also pretty tedious here. There are some tedious missions, but you can skip those missions pretty much if you know your moves. This level introduces a new enemy type, the Chuckya. The Chuckyas will follow you around, and if they catch you, they'll chuck you in the direction they're facing. For the longest time, I thought these enemies were invincible, but actually if you go behind them and pick them up, you can become a Chuckya yourself. The constant scaling gets annoying. Climb the mountain to get the star, now climb the mountain to catch the chimp, climb the mountain to get the coins. It also doesn't help that the collision in some areas of the mountain can be pretty jank with certain corners. The mountain moles suck. They really know how to be as irritating as possible despite only being in a few areas of the game. I still had fun with this level, but it is rough. Up next is Wet Dry World. You can kind of tell they started to run out of steam by the time they made Wet Dry World. This level feels more like an assortment of random geometry than an actual place. It really feels slapped together rather than carefully thought out. Wet Dry World is, as you guessed, a water level. Why is it called Wet Dry World? Well, that's because you adjust the water levels to navigate. This level also introduces some new enemy types as well. The Skeeter, these guys sit on top of the water and just glide around, and the Heave-Ho. The Heave-Ho is a wind-up toy that follows you around to try to throw you in the air, kind of like the Chuckyas. Unlike the Chuckyas, however, you cannot kill the Heave-Ho. The 100 coin star is pretty easy here. This level also has a neat little town in it. I have no idea what it's doing here, but I like it. This level exists. I don't think any of the stars in this level are great, but I also don't think any of them are bad. The level I did after that is Snowman's Land. This is another snow level, and coincidentally, the last one as well. It's a pretty fun level to just run around in. There's a lot of stars you can get out of order. The level also has ice. Oddly enough, I think this is the only place where ice shows up. I could have sworn it was more common than that. In this level, the water is dangerous. If you stay in the water too long, you'll take damage. And there's some pools of water where it's so cold that you just get burnt by it. I like that the mountain isn't even a mountain. It's just a giant snowman. The 100 coin star is really easy to get in this level because of a glitch. This level introduces a new enemy type, Moneybags. Moneybags is a big wallet that disguises as a coin. Using some shenanigans, you can glitch Moneybags and obtain practically infinite coins. A level I love, but many don't, and I really never understood why. After that, I moved on to Tiny Huge Island. This level sucks. Its concept is good, switching between huge and tiny versions of the island. I've always loved that in early 3D gaming, playing with scaling to create interesting levels. But here it's nothing more than a cool idea and a terrible level. I don't really like any of these stars. Like the piranhas, you just punch a bunch of piranha plants. Scale the mountain, you just scale the mountain. Again, a lot of scaling levels. Your match with the Koopa the Quick is pretty easy. Oh, and by the way, you will fall off this level a lot. For an island, it's surprisingly lacking in water. Not a great time. I didn't finish this level in my playthrough. That should tell you all you need to know. Moving on to Tick-Tock Clock. This level also sucks. This level comes really close to being my least favorite level in the game, but Shifting Sandland beats it out just barely. I also didn't finish this level. The stars here are just not fun. You just scale up over and over again, with platforming challenges that range from bad to unfair. This is also another level with no ground to catch you if you fall. I did not enjoy getting the few stars that I did in this level. The constant falling off the level and having to scale back up just makes it not fun. Also, screw whoever's decision it was to put a Heave-Ho here. This level blows. The final main stage is Rainbow Ride. This level's okay. It kind of has a similar feel to Wet Dry World, like they were really reaching for level ideas. This level is also just a bunch of geometry slapped together. The stars are just fine. It's pretty open for what it's worth, lending itself to some pretty cool shortcuts. I don't really have much to say about this level. Having to ride the slow carpet and over got annoying, I guess. Again, it's an okay level. The final special stage is Wing Mario Over the Rainbow. This is the third non-cap related special stage, and technically the last level of the game. I also didn't finish this level. To be honest, I got one look at it, tried to fly around, and when it spat me back out in front of the castle for falling, I just said, screw it. Not great. And that was the third floor. I gotta say, this floor was rough to get through. So many levels ranging from okay to bad. A far cry from the quality levels of the first and second floor, even if the second floor did have shifting sandlands. You can tell that by this point they were running out of steam. Most of these levels felt like they were aimlessly slapped together because they had a quota to fill, and as a result I started to have less and less to say about them. Like I said, you can skip this floor in its entirety if you really want to do, so I won't knock the game too hard for its final set of levels. But I don't blame anyone who didn't finish the game because they just didn't want to deal with it. Now that that's out of the way, it's time to finally kick Bowser's butt and save the princess. The final level is Bowser in the Sky, and it's pretty easy, but I do think it's a good level. Like every other Bowser level, there's a red coin star to get here, and it's pretty easy. Well, except for the final red coin, which has been put in a very cheeky position. I remember tearing my hair out when I was a kid looking for it. Even though it is easy, I personally don't mind, because the real challenge comes with this final Bowser fight. Well, that's what I would have been saying if he didn't go down so easily. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I guess I channeled my inner gamer for this fight and took him down extremely fast. Trust me when I say he's not usually this big of a pushover. This is actually a tricky boss fight. I had this whole bit planned out in my head and everything about it taking me so long to defeat Bowser, but my dumb butt had to go and ruin it. Oh well. All we have to do now is grab our final power star and head back to the princess to save the day.
of the stars is restored to the castle. And it's all thanks to you. Thank you, Mario. We have to do something special for you.
Here we go!
Listen, everybody. Let's bake a delicious cake. For Mario.
And that was Super Mario 64. That ending always puts a big grin on my face. This is one of my comfort games. It's so hard for me to be even close to objective with this game. Hopefully I managed to be fair in this review and not be blinded by nostalgia. I can play this game endlessly over and over and never get bored of it. Sure, this game may not have aged super well, and that final floor can go take a hike for all I care. When all's said and done, this is one hell of a first 3D game. So much of it still holds up. The amount of freedom this game gives the player is insane for a game from '96. Very rarely will you ever have to do stars in order. You can skip entire sections of levels if you want. This game gives every star you obtain value, allowing you to just not do any of the missions you don't like. This game does reward its players for making an attempt to learn its controls. I love that every room has had a purpose. No area really went unused, which I really appreciate. It's so easy to design areas and then give them no purpose, especially in these early 3D games. If you came into this video expecting me to say something like, "This game is actually worse than you remember, it's so terrible," then I'm sorry, but that's not gonna happen. If you somehow haven't played this game, I highly suggest you do. This game has definitely earned its reputation as one of the greats. And I'm glad that even 17 years later, I still find new reasons to love this game and appreciate it. Yeah, that's the end of the video. Bye-bye.